near worth it.
Yeah.
You know, by moving that dial one notch back, you shift $1 billion into the hands of quality journalism.
Yeah.
And for advertisers, it works better.
That seems to, I mean, the thing with advertising and advertisers is no one seems to like anyone in it. You know, publishers, I'm interested in your view on this, publishers seem to think they're getting screwed. You know, it just seems to be this widespread view.
Publishers screw themselves. One of our current mantras is, it's been true for the 15 years I've been in the space, is that publishers are promiscuous. They will work with anybody. Anybody who offers them money, they say yes to. And then they complain that they're getting screwed. I'm like, well, people who take money from anybody that offers it to them and then claims that they're getting screwed, there's a term for that. And I don't want to say it, but like, have some standards. You know, get into meaningful, long-term, high-value relationship with advertisers. You know, demonstrate value, and you'll get what you should get. You know, turn over your ad space to anybody who wants it. You know, how many companies out there just profiling and watching people who happen to go through The Guardian and then using that to go find them on cheaper sites? Hundreds? So you can't really complain. It's not like they're, you know, tapping into the wires.
Yeah.
You are giving them this inventory. You are doing it to yourself. Stop complaining.
We did a project. I used to work at The Guardian. We used to do a project tracking cookies on sites. I think The Guardian had 38 that it gave you on an average page view.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I suppose we can't really claim much on that.
That's my problem. And this is where I got really frustrated after 15 years. I can write all the blog posts. I can run an ethical company. You know, I can strongly encourage people. We built the industry's GDPR consent tools. And we did it from an ethical perspective, where it wasn't like, how can we trick people? It was, you know, fine, take away consent. You know what? At the end of the day, like, publishers and marketers have to stand up for what they want. Marketers want good advertising on good sites. Publishers want good advertising on good sites. It's the middle. Everybody else is finding ways to screw everybody.
Yeah, feels that way. And I guess, you know, it must come up now and then where you're sort of at a party or at something and someone asks what you do, and it's like, well, you know, I invented online ads as you know them. You must get some bad reactions to that sometimes. People really seem to hate online adverts. So
yeah, but I'm so cynical about it. Like, I mean, I told this one guy at a Thanksgiving dinner a couple years ago, my wife's friend's husband, and he said, I get these lingerie ads all the time.
Oh no. Sorry, carry on.
And I'm like, okay. Have you been to any lingerie sites recently? And they go, I don't think so. And I'm like, okay, so you have. Here's what you need to do. Clear your cookies. He's like, I don't know, really, that seems so annoying. Like, why stop stalking me? I'm like, well, number one, like, I don't know why you were at a lingerie site. Don't tell me. You know? Number two, like, this is sort of how it works. Like, think about the branding. Like, you remember the lingerie. Like, it's kind of working. You're talking to me about lingerie right now. You're basically a case study on why this works.
Yeah.
You know? So it's kind of funny. It's like there are people who are very philosophical about it. But the reality is, you know, on my own personal computer, I use an ad blocker. And I'm not embarrassed about that. I got really pissed off that a lot of my employees use them. But the reality is, like, as long as publishers are going to let you have 38 cookies and have incredibly slow sites and work with all these people, like, I would be happy to turn off the ad blocker if I could be confident that a site was being ethical and responsible with how it uses advertising.
I mean, adverts pay my wages as much as they pay yours.
Right.
I use an ad blocker.
But that's the problem. If you can't convince me to use my own technology, so when I'm at a party, I'm like, look, we build technology that helps advertisers and publishers, you know, match. You know, we have really amazing clients that do this really well. Like, I'm very proud of Microsoft as an example. Like, they're one that's very careful about how they deploy this. They might argue that they under-monetize slightly, but we've crushed their numbers. Every year, we increase their revenue by 15, 20%. Like, without doing anything sketchy, they have probably the highest level of corporate privacy concern, all the way to, like, Brad Smith, who's their president. Like, they're incredibly ethical. And we've given them billions of dollars of ad money over the years. So the stuff I can talk about at a party that I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
Or I can say AT&T, when they were our client, like, we reduced their cost to acquire customers by a third. We saved them $30 million a year.
Is that why they bought you?
Partially. Because they knew the tech worked. So I'm actually proud of those things. Some of the other secondary things, like, because I'm so personally against them.
Yeah. Like, you must sometimes look at this, look at it and kind of think, what have I done?
Yeah, all the time. And that's why I started my blog, and was just like, WTF, people, stop doing it.
So just to sort of ask you a slight sort of tangent on it, but you're an investor as well as someone who works in this, and one thing, certainly for publishers, I tend to wonder about, one thing I'm trying to look at in this is, is VC part of the broad problem of the internet? One thing that always strikes me online and with the kind of angel VC exit model is you can't just build a normal sized business or a big business. It's like go hard or go home. And that kind of pushes you to scale, which then tends to push you to an ads model, which might not be right for your company. And it sort of almost forces you down this kind of certain model, or it kind of looks that way. Like, do we need more business models on the internet and more funding models to get there? Or am I just sort of being a European communist / hippie, as Jeff Jarvis likes to call me?
Well, there's a lot of really interesting research on this. There's no evidence that taking VC makes your company more likely to succeed. It makes it the time between starting and succeeding or failing faster, but not more likely. I think there's really good advice for entrepreneurs in general, which is VC is a flywheel. Once you're on it, it's really hard to get off of it. There's all kinds of pressure to hit certain financial outcomes that may not be ethical, they may not be good for your customer. I met an entrepreneur last week, and I asked her how confident she was that she was going to continue to have ethical behaviors after raising money, and she said, well, my investors are convinced that ethical decisions are also the best business decisions. I was like, no, they're not. Sometimes they are, and those are the easy ones. What happens when the most ethical thing to do is bad for business? What will you do? And she didn't have any answer. And I said, this is like, don't lie to yourself. Like, you have to figure out what you're going to do in those situations. I know at AppNexus we made some very hard decisions. We banned Breitbart when it was very controversial, risky for our business, bad for our financial model.
I know what happens when Breitbart's upset with you as well.
Yeah, and they wrote personal slam articles about our employees. They went after us pretty hard. And we did other things like that over time. And I think there were billions of dollars of impact of those. And those are probably billions of dollars we would have captured as marketplace value. And I felt great about those decisions, even though, part of it was firing customers. And I had to lay people off at one point because we'd fired too many customers that I didn't think were ethical. But what are you going to do? Are you going to risk your business and lay off your employees when it's the right thing to do? And she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I believe in selfishness. I read Ayn Rand, and I think selfish is always the right answer. I was like, oh, fuck. Just what the world needs.
I guess when you're pitching all the time, it's easy to just make the answers the pitch ones, because the ethical decision or the right business decision, she gave you the right answer for a pitch, didn't she?
No, because I was like, I'm never.
Well, maybe not a pitch for you.
Yeah. So, but go one level above the VCs. Go to the LPs, the endowments and the pension funds that are funding the VCs. Are they willing to instruct those VCs to make ethics a priority over returns? This is interesting because the VCs are just another middleman. They're like the ad agencies. If Princeton's endowment says, we're going to get 14% returns because that return goes into paying for, education, and education is the greatest social good, then maybe the ends justify the means.
Well, they also know they won't get the bad publicity because the VC might, but that's rare.
Exactly.
It will be the company that does the bad thing. So how many of Facebook's investors have faced any consequences for what it's done? How many of Google's? How many of anyone's?
Well, this is
let
my
alone the funders of the VC.
So do we need to have a better conversation
through
the whole system? Because, honestly, like, if you said to Princeton, like, or Harvard, or the New York